games. Kevin Durant played better in the regular season. He had a better regular season, but as of right now, LeBron is playing better in the playoffs. And I think that's what really makes him the best player right now, is because he's stepping it up in the playoffs. So I think he is the best in the playoffs.
All right, so we have our two answers. Let's go over to Tanner, see what his...
I didn't hear two answers. I heard one answer from two different people. So you guys both get 1 point for that one.
Well, what do you want us to say? LeBron is by far okay.
You wrote the question.
Yeah, what do you want? All right.
All right, question number 2. We're moving on. Why did the Warriors fire head coach Mark Jackson? We'll go with Dave to start out.
I just think the Warriors have so much potential right now. They've got great young talent, and I think Mark Jackson is kind of holding them back. He doesn't necessarily know how to run an offense with the kind of talent he has. And I think in order for them to get to the next level, to be a title contender, I think they need a new coach who will come in and Steve Kerr, who will come in and get things going straight for them. They need a good offense, and they do have a good offense, but they need a solid offense, a consistent offense.
Okay. I think the Warriors do have a ton more potential to live up to. I think Mark Jackson did about as best as he could with that Warriors team in the first round without Andrew Bogut, getting them to Game 7 versus a really talented Clippers team. I think Mark Jackson did a really good job. A lot of the problems had to do with behind the scenes and him telling people that, like Jerry West, he wanted Jerry West out of the picture, and Mark Jackson did a lot of things that kind of upset the front office behind the media. From what we can see and on ESPN and stuff like that, Mark Jackson had a lot of troubles with the front office, so I think that's a lot of the reasons why he got fired. Also, he did run a heavy ISO offense with Stephen Curry, and that didn't work a lot of times. So.
All right, Tanner?
All right, I'm going to go with David, just ultimately because, if you're doing bad stuff in the front office and you're winning, what do they have against you? They can't fire you. And I just agree with David saying that they definitely have the offense to do it. He just hasn't gotten it out of them. So I'm going to go with Dave.
All right, so question 3. The Cavaliers just recently fired their head coach, Mike Brown, after his second tenure with the team. Where do the Cavs go from here? Start with Scott.
I think you have to hang on to Kyrie Irving at this point. He's obviously a franchise player moving forward. He's going to be top 10 player in the league moving forward. It was nice to see them get rid of Andrew Bynum. We saw the locker room problems he caused in Indiana, and obviously Indiana has sort of moved on ever since they've dropped Andrew Bynum. They've got a solid core around Dion Waiters and also Kyrie and Tristan Thompson, so I think you just have to keep moving on with those players. Try to maybe re-sign Luol Deng to a short extension and see what you can do moving forward.
And Dave?
Yeah, they do have a great young core. They don't necessarily have all the pieces yet, and so I think they're still in a little bit of a rebuilding mode, which is why it was a good time to fire a head coach. They're still rebuilding, and they do need to keep... Kyrie is their franchise player. I don't think they should keep Luol Deng. I think they need to bring in new young talent and then develop them all together as a young core.
All right, Tanner, your thoughts?
I like both points, but I agree more with David. Definitely, and like what Scott says, well, keep the core guys you have, but they're in a rebuilding stage, get more players, and I think firing Mike Brown was the right decision, so I'm going to go with David's argument on that one.
Okay.
All right.
All right, so moving on, question 4. Shelley Sterling, the ex-wife of Donald Sterling, is fighting to keep her ownership of the Clippers even though players want her out. Should she be able to keep her ownership? Dave?
They don't have any evidence against her, and that's the thing, is she wasn't the one with the recording saying that she's racist. I think she should do the respectful thing in the situation. I think if people want her out, she should comply, because it's just making things harder for everyone. I think she should do the respectful thing, but I don't think anyone has a right to force her out. I think if she's going to go out, it needs to be willingly.
Well, since I can't get any sympathy from our judge, I'm just going to say LeBron James thinks all the Sterlings need to be out, and so she should be out because LeBron James wants her to go out.
All right.
there you go.
All right, so
You just have to mention LeBron.
So
that's it.
the sucking up approach.
Yeah, yes.
Is that what?
Yeah.
All right,
because I
question
don't-
number 5. Steve Kerr chooses the Warriors over the Knicks for his head coaching job. Is that a good move?
I think it's a good move because I think Steve Kerr is going to be a good coach. But I also think people are overrating him a little bit. I mean, he was in the exact same situation that Mark Jackson was. He was an NBA TV analyst. We all love him because he's a really good three-point shooter, one of the best of all time. And he could be good for that offense with Stephen Curry and helping them develop to get better shots. But I'm not sure he's that much different than Mark Jackson just yet, especially because he has no prior coaching experience, just like Mark Jackson didn't have. But I do think he'll be able to run a better offense than Mark Jackson has, and that's what the Warriors wanted. So that's a good fit for the Warriors, I think.
Yeah, he hasn't proven himself as a coach yet. But coming in, you can tell he has a ton of potential. Especially, he played for the Spurs. He's played in that offense where everyone works together, everyone finds the open shot. And with the kind of shooters and the talent that the Warriors have, I think coming in, he could be a perfect fit. But like I said, he doesn't have that experience. But he has potential to be a perfect fit for the Warriors.
All right, Tanner?
All right, I agree with both arguments, but I'm going to give the point to Scott because he brought up the fact that Steve Kerr's almost identical to Mark Jackson in what he's done before and what he's bringing to the team. And so if it plays out the same way, then the Warriors will be the same. So I'm going to have to go with Scott's.
Steve Kerr is less of a preacher, though, than Mark Jackson was, so that could be good as well.
All right, final question. This one's for the win, I think, right?
Oh, it's for the win.
Yeah, this is for the win.
Okay, LeBron.
So, Paul Pierce says he has 1 or 2 years left in the tank. Would you want him on your team at the age of 36?
I'm starting, right?
Okay, yeah.
My turn to start. I would want him on a team. First off, for the experience and the leadership. But I definitely, right now for the Nets, he's kind of one of their go-to scorers. I mean, he's starting and they're looking to him to score points. I don't think he should have that role anymore. You look at Ray Allen on the Heat, and he's coming in off the bench, just taking what's given to him, and he's doing great. He's scoring in the playoffs, 10, 15 points a game. I think Paul Pierce should try and fit that role, where he's coming in off the bench. He's the leader in the locker room, but coming off the bench and taking what's given to him instead of being the go-to guy on offense.
I think it depends a ton on the team that he goes to. Obviously, I think KG is winding down. We saw in this series. Don't think he has many years left of eliteness. Obviously, he's not very elite anymore. But I think Paul Pierce, for his own good, has to move on from the Nets, which is kind of a shame because the Nets basically gave up 4 first-round picks for a year of Paul Pierce and a year of Kevin Garnett for 5 playoff wins. So I think if Paul Pierce can go to a team like maybe even like the Raptors or a youthful team out in the East, that could be really helpful, or even like the Wizards, that could be really helpful moving forward for one of those franchises. Yeah.
All right.
Who was it that said LeBron before we started? No, I'm just kidding. That's tough. They're both really good, but I'm going to have to go with Dave because I agree he should stay on a roster, but as a player like Ray, I love the Ray Allen comment. So
Okay, good.
I'm going to go with Dave.
Wow.
Let's move. Okay, good grief. No more Heat judges.
So
no more Heat judges.
Hold on.
Man.
So who won?
Dave.
Dave won. Okay. All right.
All right.
Congrats. You got the Heat guys argument. Right.
Well, congrats, Dave. You win absolutely nothing. But it's the thought that counts.
Yep.
We'll take it to a commercial and be right back.
Oh, that was fun, wasn't it?
Y'all. Let's go. All around the world. Y'all know this is so that. To the beach, y'all. Yeah.
We're back. We're going to talk a little bit more NBA. Last night, the Heat wrapped up the Nets series in 5. Dave and I both thought that the Nets would take down the Heat.
Hope. Hope.
Yeah, hope is a better word.
Deep down, I don't think we actually believed that we thought that they could, and we hoped that they would, but
I thought that they had the best chance of any team because of the way that they can switch the pick and roll and how good they are, because they're all like the same body type of player, and they play small ball, which is what the Heat also like to do, and they also play a turtle's pace. So, and the Heat love to speed the game up, and so I think the Nets had the best chance of anyone, especially with how the Pacers have been looking. But first off, actually, let's take it to our prediction brackets. After the first round, Tanner, Dave, and I made brackets. Let's take it to my bracket, I guess, first. If we can get that pulled up.
Well, it wasn't a good bracket.
Well, it
wasn't
bracket,
good enough to make the TV.
Here we
so-
go.
Okay. So
You only
yeah,
have 3 X's?
I only have
That's
3
good.
X's. Lost the Rockets, Bulls, and Nets. I'm feeling pretty satisfied about this so far. I mean, I've still got
3
my
X's, though.
I've still got my 2 finals contenders. Hopefully, I feel so conflicted rooting for the Clippers right now to keep my bracket alive. But I guess let's take it to Dave's bracket now.
The bracket with only 2 X's.
Oh.
Is that what they're calling it? Oh.
No, that's not mine.
That's
That is
Tanner's
Tanner's.
bracket. Let's just let no. Oh.
There it
Okay.
is.
Why
What
did
is
we
Dave's
have to
bracket?
sneak peek
All right.
that
Yeah.
first?
Dave's bracket.
So,
Homer Portland got the W in
Yep.
this one.
Portland 1-6. That's the one that I got right that no
Yes.
one else did. So far, perfect in the West Conference. The East Conference, like I said, we hoped that the Nets would beat the Heat. That
He's
didn't
a
happen.
strong word.
And the Bulls did not perform.
No,
The Wizards were impressive, but I mean,
Uh,
that could have gone either way.
Dave, congratulations for winning our bracket challenge so far. Let's take it to whatever this bracket is.
This is actually one.
Rockets.
I found this bracket on the floor as I was walking in and decided to
Yeah,
make it my
and
own.
you decided to put it as your bracket?
Let's just say I've called better games. But,
It's okay. My bracket's a lot
I
worse.
think when it comes down to it, I called the champion, and that's what matters to me. Ultimately getting that.
That
picking
hasn't
that team.
happened yet.
You also
Um,
called the finals wrong. So.
We're well on our way to
very
seeing
wrong.
my prediction, at least from the East Coast, come true. I don't care about the West anymore, as you can see.
If your map was a pirate map, that would be the best pirate map ever.
That would be
So
a
many
bounteous
treasures.
pirate map.
You could find so much treasure on
But I
that
did
map.
call the Wizards, if you do notice.
That's
You did.
good.
So I know a little bit about what I'm talking
Something
about.
right.
Congratulations on getting one right. Okay, we'll move on. Do you guys think, with the way the Pacers have been playing lately, do you think the Heat will want to play the Wizards or the Pacers? Because the Pacers and the Heat both played them 2-2 in the regular season. We obviously saw that the Nets being 4-0 didn't even matter come playoff time.
Yep.
But the Wizards can score really well, and they give the Heat problems on defense because of how quick John Wall is and how quick Bradley Beal is. Do you think with the Pacers' chemistry problems, do you think that the Pacers or the Wizards give the Heat a harder time?
That's tough because traditionally they've always had trouble with the Pacers, and everyone's expecting, the Pacers and the Heat playing for the finals. Those are the two monsters in the East. But the playoffs have been so different for the Pacers. Like I've been kind of disappointed with the way they've been playing. Like they're not even up to, and I'm a Heat fan. And I hate the Pacers, and they're not even playing up to where I thought they'd be playing. But then the Wizards as well, like you said, they're young, they give them a problem on defense. The Pacers' problem is their size that they offer the Heat. But then the Wizards,
Wizards have really good size too, without Gortat and Hibb
That's
playing
true,
so
that's
far.
Really
true.
athletic up there.
And Roy
Gortat
Kwame,
has been
Roy
playing
Kwame
great.
Brown Hibbert is not going to turn into
Roy Kwame
Roy
Brown
Kareem
Hibbert.
Abdul-Jabbar Hibbert,
Roy
which
Kwame
usually
Brown.
turns into versus the Heat.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I still think the Pacers, their entire goal this entire season has been to beat the Heat in the playoffs.
Being a
Yeah.
Heat fan,
I
I
think the
want
sense
them
of
to.
urgency.
I would rather them play the
Yes.
Wizards at this point.
because of the
I
matchup.
think if the Pacers want to do well, they have to close out the Wizards tonight
Oh,
at
yeah.
Washington. Because if they barely squeak out of the series in Game 7 at home,
It's
the
gonna be
Heat
a
are
ton
going to
of
be
pressure.
a wake-up call for them.
I mean,
They're-
they've been playing a ton of games, Game 7s,
Yeah,
Game
they
7s. The
played
Heat are
Game 7
like,
against an 8 seed. Now they're kind of
There's going to be a ton of pressure on that Pacers team too, and they've started to feel it here late down the
I
stretch.
think so, yeah.
Other news, obviously the Machine Spurs finished their business in the Blazers last night out in 5. Okay, the most
It happens.
congratulations to the
Unless you're
Blazers
a
though
Heat
on a
fan.
terrific
Yeah,
on a
exactly.
terrific season They have one of the brightest futures. Too bad they have to play in the West, and so they're probably going to still end up with like a 5 seed next year again. But the Spurs
are just unreal.
Okay, without Tony Parker in the entire second half, the Blazers make a run late in the first half, and it's like Kawhi Leonard turned into prime Michael Jordan and got every single prime. Okay, I'll tone it down. Prime Scottie Pippen, because he got just about every steal there was to be had in that second half. And but moving forward, can the Spurs contend for a championship with a not healthy Tony Parker?
I think so.
I think they can.
Because their bench is one of the
Patty
best.
Mills played like Tony Parker last night, too.
Yeah.
Patty Mills can sure fill in, especially with all their bench guys that they have, Bellinelli and...
I think Kawhi Leonard proved that he can step up when he needs to. He's kind of played his first few years on the league. He's kind of played underneath Tony Parker and Tim Duncan. But he's really developed as a player, and I think he'll be able to step it up when he has to.
I also think Kawhi Leonard had a bit of the benefit of the doubt this last night, because the Blazers are always going to be game planning for Tony Parker, and Tony Parker was probably the MVP of the series versus the Blazers.
Oh, for sure.
And Kawhi Leonard can sit behind the scenes so much when he plays with the Spurs, and he fits the role with the Spurs perfectly. And so he kind of had a coming out party last night. I definitely think that the Spurs need Tony Parker to win the championship.
For sure, but I think to win the championship, I would say yes.
They cannot take down the Heat.
And they proved it last year. They couldn't take him down with the healthy Tony Parker, but they still got Greg Popovich.
Tony Parker was a little bit banged up in that series.
Yeah, he was. They should have won it. They should have won it. They were seconds away from winning.
Both games too.
And they didn't necessarily play that well even.
No. They got a Finals MVP performance from Danny Green. Danny Green was amazing again last night. So.
Yeah, he was struggling there for a while, but he picked up the pace.
They're just like iRobot.
The Spurs are the Spurs.
It doesn't matter who the players that they have. It's just they always win.
Yes.
I mean, you look at their roster.
They're always there.
They got
ancient
Aaron
Tim Duncan
Baines out
from
there
the Stone
playing
Age.
like Bane. I mean, okay, let's.
I think we can just say that Popovich is going to go down top 3 coaches of all time.
Yeah.
Possibly the best. Yeah.
Top 1.
I mean,
definitely in the top 1.
There will be Lakers fans who will say it's Phil Jackson.
No.
I mean, there will always be people who disagree, but I don't think there has ever been a better
Here's
coach.
what you need to say. Tim Duncan has played 15 years or 16 years since he's came in the league. Mm-hmm. The Spurs have had 50. All but 1 year, the Spurs had 50 wins every single year, and the only year that they didn't was when they played a 50-game season and they went 37-13 and were first in the West. They also had 50 wins when it was the 66-game lockout season. So
and all through these years too, you haven't heard any like controversy inside the team. I mean, especially with the Lakers. I remember when Kobe wanted to get traded, there was all this controversy with Phil Jackson, stuff like that.
There's no one bringing guns to the locker room
with Greg Popovich.
Well, what kind of player would want to leave that organization?
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
That's the thing.
Steven
no
Jackson,
one in there.
Jefferson,
Captain Jack. But look what they are now. Yeah. They're not title contenders on their teams. They're so good. Top 1 for sure.
Have you seen Richard Jefferson's tattoo? Okay, moving on. Locally, Jazz are going after Stockton. John Stockton. I don't know what to make of that. I think it's better than Corbin, but
there's no way to tell. I mean, it's like Jason Kidd. No one had any idea how good of a coach he would be. He started out terrible, and he started to pick it up, but I mean, there's no...
He also had the highest paid roster in the league to work with, and John Stockton would have his best player.
John Stockton's already loved so much for his legacy in Utah, so I think if he comes in here and he doesn't perform that well and he gets let go and he's gone, I don't think people will hate him for it. They'll be like, thanks for coming to trade. So I don't think
no one can ever hate Stockton, but
especially in Utah. So I don't think
there's people outside of Utah that can hate Stockton.
Yeah, but in Utah, if he coached the Jazz, I mean, I think it'd be super cool. I think it'd be kind of a new life to the team. And if he ended up failing and didn't pan out, it's nothing bad for him.
So your prime reason for it is saying that it wouldn't be a risk.
Well, I'm saying that it'd be a risk for sure, but the Jazz are, in a position to.
It all depends on their draft, ultimately.
And the Jazz, I mean, what do they have to lose ultimately? They're in a position, I think, where they can take a chance. They're not a title contender. They're not a giant market
but
team.
they want to be.
Of course,
they
of
have
course.
a young core.
But I think they're in a position to try some stuff out.
They have a chance to open a window, though, and I think they want to get the right hire. And I don't know if I do not love the whole no prior coaching experience.
Yeah,
Let's just hire this guy because
Yeah.
Jazz fans love him.
First, and I don't think they should do that. Don't get
He
me wrong
also
there.
is a very smart man. I mean, he's the all-time leader in assists.
He's one of the best point guards ever.
Yes. So, and it's just speculation. It's
Yeah,
always
yeah.
just
I mean,
speculation.
you'd never know until he.
And
Yeah,
it would,
until he gets out
aside
there.
from coaching, it would have a huge effect on morale. I think anyone a part of that organization would just be excited.
Mhm.
And I don't think it's legendary John Stockton. I don't think the players will want to let him down.
No, and I think it'll also be a draw for Utah. I mean, if they get him, if he ends up staying and he does a good job, what up and coming point guard wouldn't want to be under his tutelage? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Troy Berg. Okay, let's also take it to Detroit, where they just got their new head of overall their basketball operations. They just hired Stan Van Gundy, who I actually really do like that hire because of the way that Stan Van Gundy's teams are run. He's really disciplined. He runs a great offense. He's going to need a lot more shooters in Detroit because they've basically got Josh Smith.
He's got Josh Smith. He's got a shooter. He's got a
Greg
shooter.
Monroe.
And Andre Drummond can become that Dwight Howard that was in Orlando for Stan Van Gundy. I truly believe.
Yeah.
And maybe Stan Van Gundy, with that annoying voice of his, can finally reach Josh Smith's head and tell him that he's stupid.
Stop shooting.
Don't shoot threes.
I think they need to just get rid of Josh Smith.
Well, they dug themselves a hole.
His trade value's never been lower.
They dug themselves a hole, signing Josh Smith and Brandon Jennings, and they need to get out of it. And I think this is a good step, but ultimately they need to get rid of Josh Smith.
I think Stan Van Gundy was the best available coach out of anyone, though, because
I would agree.
he may be annoying to listen to, but he knows the game really well.
He knows the game, and
he's gonna come. And they gave him full authority over the team, so he'll be able to do whatever he wants.
I'm all for him. I like him back in the league.
Yeah.
You know, for my own
For those
personal
listening
reasons.
Van
during
Gundy.
the commercials,
Inside
all of his
tracks.
voice.
It's good to have him back.
Game 6 tonight, Thunder versus Clippers. How do you think the Clippers will respond?
I think they're gonna come out. You know, as hard as
They're gonna come out of the tunnel, put their jerseys on.
As hard as they ever have. I mean, Doc Rivers was pissed.
Chris Paul's going to go into full butthurt mode.
Yeah.
He's already been in that.
The language on
They-
the
Blake
show.
Griffin and DeAndre Jordan are both going to flop.
I think
the
if
refs
Doc
are going to
Rivers
call the
can suit
fouls
up,
for them.
They get the win.
They think that they got the shaft, and they didn't really. I mean,
That wasn't
it-
the point.
it's
They think they
arguable.
did.
It's arguable, but they think they should have won that game.
Uh-huh.
Yes.
And I think they're just
Thunder
going
should
to
have
come
won
out.
Game 5, though.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
No, Game 4.
Well, I'm with Dave. I think they're going to come out and play as hard as
Piss
hard.
off.
Yeah, as hard as they played in this postseason, just because they feel like they've still got a chance to make it. And I think they're not going to let
Can
that
they
chance
reach a
go
new
away.
level with how they've been playing with Sterling, with the whole Sterling controversy? I mean, they've already
And
been
they've got
pretty
that too,
pissed
and
off.
that's just so unfair, you know.
No, it's
going
not.
into it too. For them, they weren't. I mean, that would mess with
They
you. a little
already
bit.
they already knew going into that organization when Chris Paul and Doc Rivers signed a contract to play for the play and coach for
when
the
that
Clippers.
all comes
They
out-
knew Donald Sterling was a racist.
But when that all comes out and everybody knows and everyone's making a huge deal of it and quoting everything you say about him, I just think it messes with you just a little bit because
Probably just a little
now
bit.
everybody knows that you're playing for a racist.
Probably
He
just
says
a
he's
little
not.
bit. But a lot of
Even
people
though he
already-
says he's not.
A lot of people
Here's
in the
the
NBA
thing.
already knew it.
Professional athletes are they're the most mentally strong people.
That's true.
They've grown up with people yelling at them. I mean, they're used to shooting free throws with people screaming at them.
Yeah.
And so they're trained not to let things get into their head. And I honestly don't think it's having.
I don't
that
think
big
it's
of
a
an effect.
travesty like the league has been describing it
Yeah.
because they knew this guy was a
Yeah.
dirtbag already. That's all we've got for the NBA, though. We're going to take it to a little bit of the NBA draft coverage for our
NFL
show. NFL draft.
And
Well, we're just going to start it up right now, I guess.
Yeah.
NFL draft happened this last week. Biggest news to cover, probably the Johnny Manziel controversy.
We've talked about that already.
We've only talked about. Oh, we did?
Yeah, we talked about that last show.
Oh, I wasn't here, so.
You were gone. But we're just going to talk about like some of our favorite players that we've drafted. I'm going to start out with my favorite pick was from BYU.
Oh.
Kyle Van Noy got picked, and I was super excited about this pick because I was just excited that he's going to be teamed up with his old teammate Ezekiel Ansah, and he'll be in like the perfect system. He'll be able to rush off the edge, and he's not going to be the like main focus anymore like he was at BYU.
Yeah, they basically threw like 3 or 4 blockers at him to keep him out of the back.
So he'll be opened up a lot, and I think they might have a new defensive system. New coach is probably going to change just a little bit, but he'll get a chance to play a lot and probably make a difference for this defense.
They were talking how he might come in, play right off the bat, just like Bobby Wagner from Utah State did. Went straight to the Seahawks, started that year, and the next year he's winning a Super Bowl. And just because he's that type of player, he's that athletic type of linebacker that you can put anywhere, and he's a full caliber kind of guy. I like that.
He's a supreme pass rusher too. Already, he showed up at the college level. He single-handedly won a bowl game for BYU versus San Diego State. I do like that draft too, just because of Anson. So he was so excited to play with him too, which is awesome to see.
Well, they were planning that the year before when they drafted. You don't. That doesn't just happen. They've been watching him for a year.
Well, and if they can keep Sue and keep him under control and not cleating people in the faces, they have a front four, a very, very dangerous potential front four there. Out, maybe we're a little bit biased because it's BYU, but
maybe
probably not.
Everyone was. You watch everything. Everyone's saying, "Oh, BYU kid, you sure you can make it?" No, they'll make it.
Yeah, okay.
So Kevin, which player did you like coming out of the?
My boy, the real Black Mamba, DeAnthony Thomas. This man, he's.
Gosh. Oh, such a crush on him. It's ridiculous.
He is amazing. He didn't have his fastest time ever at the combine, but he's one of those guys where he's going to start. He's going to be your punt returner coming right out. He's the fastest guy, quickest guy in the game, hands down, I believe. And you're talking. You can use this. He's not going to be your every down player. He's going to be you. You plan 11 plays for him all game. And
this is going to be a franchise running back.
This is definitely a franchise running back. Percy Harvin, perfect. He plays just like him. He won the Super Bowl for the.
Percy Harvin's a wide receiver though.
And so is he. Well, he is a receiver, slot receiver, running back, punt returner.
And he's really, I agree with him there. He's really versatile.
And that's
kind of like with Michael James, but Michael James got stuck behind 18 running backs.
I am worried about with him. I am worried about something in every video because we all know Kevin just watches him all day long.
On highlights.
In every highlight, every video you see, not once have you seen him just train wreck. He has yet to get just level.
He is a smart running back. That is the first one they interviewed.
He may be a smart running back for college, but when you get in the NFL, you have linebackers and safeties who've been there,
who are just as fast as you, 10 times stronger than
way
you.
harder.
They're not as quick though.
I think he's going to get a wake-up call.
It's going to be a while before he makes an impact as a running back. As a punt returner, I think he can make an immediate impact for the Chiefs.
As a running back, I don't think he'll ever.
They don't have a returner.
I don't know. I think
he will be that. Well, they plan 11 plays, and that 11 plays will win the game. Because every game comes down to 5 specific plays that you can base it back to, and he's going to be some of those plays.
I don't know. I think he's going to get. I think he's going to get a rude awakening.
He's an explosive player.
And what you need, especially the Chiefs, they need that kind of a player on there.
They need Jamal Charles.
They were going to their 5th string receiver by the end of the playoffs, and they need someone where they can, if they need a shot downfield, they can use him.
I'm just excited to see his wake-up call when he finally gets just
player
totally
are you excited
demolished.
about?
Kind of like
Yeah, who's your boy?
Which player are you excited about?
All right, mine is going to be DeMarcus Lawrence, a defensive end out of Boise State. He had a really good combine stats. He is 6'3", 243 pounds. So we got a big boy. He's coming out here with the Cowboys, which is I think they did need a little bit of a fresher.
After losing to Marcus Ware, they definitely
needed some fresh on the line there. And this kid's a beast. He started every game. He's had some amazing tackles throughout his college career. So, I mean, I think from the Cowboys' standpoint. I think they're going to try and implement him into their defense as fast as possible, simply due to the fact that, like you said, Ware's gone. So I think they need him, and they're going to.
He's going to have to make an impact
yes,
right away.
It's a do or die for him.
I think he's a good player. I don't know how well he'll do. He's one of those people. He could be a solid NFL player, or he's going to be an absolute bust.
I think he'll be
he won't do anything. I just think he has he doesn't have a very high ceiling. Is kind of how it is.
Okay.
So.
What about you, Scott?
Yeah.
You know, I'm gonna have to go with the Jaguars. Surprisingly, this is the first time they're gonna be talked about in the past 10 years
I like
in the NFL. But I really like that Marquise Lee pick because, I mean,
after picking Blake. Bortles.
Yeah, after picking Bortles, I think that gives him another receiver. I don't think the Jaguars, they still need a ton of stuff, but it's something to build around Blake Bortles and Marquise Lee. Marquise Lee's production did drop, obviously, after they lost Mac Barkley. But he's a really, I think drafting him in the second round is a pretty big steal because he's one of the most talented receivers in this draft behind like Sammy Watkins.
I really like what you're saying there because they also have the old Michigan quarterback who's now a receiver, Denard Robinson. They had one explosive receiver. They have Marcus Lee now. Marcus Lee is a game changer. He will catch the ball. I like that.
Well,
good one.
In the third round, they also went with a guard out of Miami, which is, they're building an offense, which is perfect.
Because they haven't had one. They've had Maurice Jones-Drew.
Their defense is actually pretty solid if you really think about it. But now that new coach, new things, they're just going to try and build on a quarterback. And so what's the first thing they do? They get someone for him to throw to, which you obviously need, especially with Justin Blackman.
Yeah, Blackman. Yeah.
Well, that's if Blackman can stay there for the majority of the season, unlike last year.
And potentially Blackman and Lee can form a really good wide receiver tandem.
Catch the ball. Definitely. Drugs kind of do affect that ball catching.
I think that's. I thought that happened at Oklahoma State.
No, it doesn't.
So moving on from favorite players, which team do you guys feel had the best draft? Like, as a collection of picks, not just like one pick. Who do you think had the best draft?
I'm going to save mine for last because y'all are going to laugh at me.
I'll go first then. Mine was St. Louis Rams. St. Louis Rams had a lot of picks, and they definitely need them because they're in a tough division. Probably the best division in football if you think about it, with the Seahawks, the 49ers, and the Cardinals. So by getting a lot of picks, they definitely helped themselves out. But if you look at their first 4 picks, I love all of them. First pick at number 2 was Greg Robinson. Greg Robinson, tackle from Auburn. He was one of the top, if not the top tackle. So I mean, they
better take him top if he better take the top tackle if they're getting the second pick.
So I mean, he's 6'5", 332. I mean, he's a big guy. He'll be able to protect Bradford, which has always been an issue in St. Louis. Move to the next one. They just go across the ball and go. Across the line of scrimmage and go with Aaron Donald, tackle. He's a big guy, and some people question his size because he's a little smaller for a defensive tackle, but I think he has a lot of potential and he could be a really good player. They also got a cornerback from Florida State, which is, LaMarcus Joyner's probably one of the best corners out of Florida State. I was a little surprised they picked him there. They probably could have gotten him later. But and then another player for Auburn that they got in round 3 was Trey Mason, and this is the one that I was most excited about because Trey Mason to me was the best running back in this draft. I've liked him. I liked his play in the championship game. He was a solid player, and I think after losing Steven Jackson, 2 years ago, they need somebody behind him for Sam Bradford to
be able to actually
pass to out of the backfield or just run the ball.
Yeah, just have some help. Because Bradford is alone on that offense. You got Tavon Austin,
you can only do so much.
That's it.
Yeah.
That's why he gets. I feel like that's why he gets injured.
And Sam Bradford, he is. I still think he's an awesome player. You can't do it on your own.
Even though he came from OU, I guess he was pretty good.
BYU beat him, so at
Oklahoma State.
Okay. So do you think the Rams now are good enough to move? Man, you can't have 4 teams from one division make the playoffs.
Yeah, I know. It's definitely like the roughest division. We'll have to see how the year plays out. I don't think they'll make the Super Bowl this year, but I see them as a 500 team this year at least. I mean, I think they've improved themselves, but one draft's not going to take you from one of the worst in the league to the top.
I mean, you got to look at it like this draft, like these players we'll be looking at will be playing their best of their abilities if they're still there. Like, I mean, in like 3 years from now.
I don't
like,
know. I think some of them will come right in.
Because like some of these players, you look at them, you're like, hey, you're young. Like, the NFL will like take you and embrace you and then mold you.
You still do have to beat out somebody else on the team to get a spot, though.
Yeah,
so
you're right.
Exactly, that's what I'm saying. So I mean, these kids we're looking at right here, some of them are only like 2 years older than us. I mean, you gotta look at them and.
I feel accomplished.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
Scott's gonna go out and make those Niners.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Oh.
Scott, I believe in you.
Is that my? Yeah, that's.
Kaepernick's.
Well, I didn't necessarily absolutely love their draft. I like how they did get Jimmy Ward, who's going to star as like a nickelback safety, because they did lose Carlos Rogers and Terrell Brown both to the Raiders.
Who would have thought a Northern Illinois player would go first round?
Yeah, who knows? And they pick a safety, and they're going to try to move him to cornerback. I don't know how that's going to work. But I think one of the best moves of the draft wasn't even a draft pick. It was trading for Stevie Johnson from the Bills. Yeah, and the 49ers, you saw, they were 30th in passing. Kaepernick did struggle. He still had a ton of targets, but this gives you another really good option in Stevie Johnson. And I really liked him.
Depth.
Yeah, a little more depth. He's not. Still think they need another speedy slot receiver, and that's not really what Johnson needs. He's more of a playmaking receiver. I don't know, but I really like that acquisition for the 49ers.
Their off-season moves rather than just the draft.
Than just the draft. I also like Carlos Hyde from Ohio State because Gore is winding down, and they do already have like Marcus.
He plays just like Gore.
Yes.
If you watch him, he plays just like him.
Now they have 85 running backs on their depth chart with Marcus Lattimore as well. And Michael James still there. And
I don't know. He got pretty rocked in the Super Bowl.
You shut up. Okay. You can go.
Let's say I'm thinking the Vikings. I feel like they had a great draft. For one, not just because Teddy Bridgewater, but you see they had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6,
Well, they
7.
needed a quarterback.
They did, but
So
they
did
they had a smart draft. They have 7 defensive players, 2 outside linebackers, 2 corners, and another defensive end, and an outside linebacker that can be a defensive end as well.
Their best pick was by far Anthony Barr in that.
Oh, definitely, because he is such a versatile player. He played defensive end for 2 years. He's an outside linebacker, and then you get Scott whatever his name is, another defensive end.
He's a good draft, though.
It is a very good, but then all that together, they're thinking smart when they get Teddy Bridgewater, who I think is the best quarterback in the draft.
I can't wait to see him out there with the Vikings. I can't wait.
Peterson will just
I
think Adrian Peterson will just be relieved to finally have expectations for a quarterback, because every single quarterback they've had.
It's like Christian
It's
Palmer.
like,
I don't even know who the quarterback is.
And Tavares Jackson for so long.
That one guy didn't get him off
feel.
like the street. I'm pretty
And there's
sure
there's some potential to grow there, and there's a ceiling for Teddy Bridgewater.
And that's why they made a base for their defense. They took Teddy Bridgewater, who's an explosive player.
He will,
and then they get a running back from Georgia Southern, and who knows where that is.
But he's probably really good.
And he will be able to learn from the best. I think they had an amazing draft.
They had a really good one.
And if not, I think they'll be a playoff.
Yeah, like you said, I think AP's prayers were answered.
I really think so. If they have Bridgewater, if
Bridgewater's he's not going to be a franchise quarterback.
I bet in 2 years from now we'll see Bridgewater than
Peterson, I think, can carry him, but now he doesn't have the entire load on his back.
Well, if you think about it, think back a couple of years when Brett Favre was on the Vikings. It wasn't that much different of a roster. It was like hand to AP, and then
now they have.
Well, they did still have.
But
as much as you like to make fun of Brett
I think
Favre,
they learned from that though.
Having a good quarterback makes a difference.
And plus a solid defense. That's where I look at it.
It's hard to make the playoffs when you have Christian Ponder at quarterback. So if you
Hey, they brought in Josh Freeman. Give him some slack.
Yeah, because he did great in Tampa too.
Yeah, he was awesome, man.
So I think that's why Teddy Bridgewater was such a good pick. You have to have quarterback. You have to have a quarterback, but the nice thing is they also have a team outside of
Yeah.
That's why I say
that's
They
the piece
finally
they're
built. They finally didn't look at. Oh my gosh, we need a player right here, like right now.
And
They
they got
finally
him-
were able to
yeah.
take a step back, like okay.
And
here,
they're building.
here,
They're
and
building a solid defense, and they're improving.
'Cause it seemed like
their
all
offense
This
isn't
is
horrible.
probably
Yeah.
the most the Vikings have ever been talked about on any show in the past.
Well,
But
I mean, it's simply
this
because
is-
all like regular season long, they were just sitting there like. It seemed like they were just
fluctuating.
freaking out, just scrambling. Oh gosh, we need a new quarterback. Oh my gosh, we need a new lineman. It was like
And now
always
it's-
something. They were like immediately needing it.
It seems like they're slowing
And
it down.
finally, they slowed it
building
down
up.
and are
having
gonna
their
look to the
new
future.
coach, Mike Zimmer. Mike Zimmer coached Bengals defense for defense.
Just defense,
for a
I
long
think.
time.
Defense,
And like a lot of people tried to get him to come as a head coach, and for some reason this is the job he picked. And I think he picked it because he realized that there's all those different pieces. And then because he's a defensive coach, that's of course what he wants to build first, because that's familiar. You look at the same
This is
thing.
turning into a defensive league with,
Yeah.
with like the 49ers and the
building for
Seahawks.
that.
If you look
Seahawks,
at all the new coaches, they always go to their preference. Like Chip
Yeah.
Kelly comes to the Eagles, he makes the best offense, one of the best offenses in the league. You know, that's what they do. And so he needed to get a quarterback, which he did. But then the rest of those picks, he wanted a good defense because that's what you have to have
That
to
is a
compete against
good
your
draft.
division.
Okay, Connor, I really
let's
kind
go
of
to-
I want
let's go to
everyone to hear
Connor.
yours.
All right, I'm a little. I don't know. I guess it wouldn't be bandwagon, but
No, it's bandwagon.
You're
okay,
gonna
whatever.
bandwagon
Anyways,
the
I'm not
Browns?
going to start off with the most obvious part. I picked the Browns. Okay, I picked the Browns simply because
Wow.
they got two
Wow.
corners and an outside linebacker. So
Quarterbacks.
corner.
They already have Joe Hayden
Anyways,
too, who's
but
one of the best
I mean,
cornerbacks.
they did get like this. Besides my favorite pick, obviously Justin Gilbert.
What
the
do
boy.
you have circled there?
Oklahoma State because
Okay,
he came from
okay.
there.
Oklahoma
All right, so
State.
Justin
the
Gilbert, they
brown
did get him, which is going to help them out a lot on defense. So they also got another on a round 4 pick, Pierre Desir. I think he's French.
Wow,
I don't
that's
know.
good.
Yeah, and he's a small school corner who came out, and he's really really fast. And on looking at any defensive standpoint, you can't have too many corners. So I think a lot of corners are helping. They're really looking to build their defense right here. And then, of course, Manziel.
Where do you think he'll start playing? When do you think he'll start playing?
I do not. I see him either coming at the end of the season.
You didn't think they're going to wait till the end of the season to see if
I
Manziel
don't
can
know.
play?
I think
Are you
they
waiting for like an injury?
I think
or-
their coach realizes it's a really risky pick, so I think he's going to wait, sit on it for a minute, and either beginning of next year or towards the end or a freak game.
Okay, so the Browns draft really wasn't that good. Their only good pick was that first one, Justin Gilbert, because then you got Joe Hayden,
Yes.
Gilbert on the other
think
side. That's
Manziel
a
could
good
make
deal.
stuff
Manziel could make. Yeah,
But-
I'm not. I'm.
He's.
I think they're gonna. I'm
Here's-
hoping they'll win this game.
Let me explain where it went wrong. Is they draft Manziel, and then 2 days later, the Browns owner comes out and says he
tells him
needs
to be
to
the-
quit being Hollywood
And act like the backup
and act like the
quarterback.
backup quarterback.
Yeah. And if
That
you-
right
if you-
there,
that's
if you
how
don't
you
have the owner
start-
on your side, then you lose, because
Maybe he'll
head
calm
coaches
him
can
a
make as
little
many
bit.
decisions as they want, but
And-
that owner has the ultimate decision, because he could tell that coach, you know what, you're going to be fired if you like he'd do things like that. And
Yeah,
he
well,
could be
it's
like,
part of that gamble.
I
It's
don't
part of the
like
Manziel gamble. It was going all around the league.
Can I say one thing? The best thing for it to happen to Manziel was him being drafted late, because that gives him some motivation.
He's either going to take it, learn from it, or he's
When Big Larry came round just to put him down, SpongeBob turned